It's just doing incredibly well. This doing something to be careful with. A painful lesson. Good morning, everybody. Or I guess it's almost afternoon now. I had to do quite a bit of prep work to get up here. I have exciting news to share with you, but before I get to move on to the exciting stuff, I've got one big problem that I need to fix, and I'll walk you through both. But we'll start with good news. And the good news is that the new planting area is just about ready for us to really start prepping in the same way that we did last time. Right now I'm walking along the second terrace. It's the one in the middle, and this terrace is the largest by far. It's laser level, and I already have about maybe 3.5 yards of horse manure and straw mixed in the soil. And here we are coming up on the area that we've already worked. And this is such a good opportunity because what you'll see when we go to the problem area is that this is the lesson learned. With this area, I have taken the opportunity to really go to town with organic matter, making sure that it's fully mixed in, that it's plentiful and it's abundant. Because what I've realized from the experience of doing this is the plants don't grow if there's not water sticking around. So you could bring 1,000 gallons of water and pour it everywhere continuously, or you can bring material that will grab onto the water so that it stays long enough that the roots can find it. And you might literally use 90% less water just by keeping it around long enough for the roots to find it. What I'm learning from doing this is that if you want to be successful, it's all in the preparation. The more that you amend the soil and that you give it a habitable growing environment, the better I'm going to do. The other thing that we've done here is we've worked on access. So you'll see me here in a minute walking back and forth because the truck is 1,000,000 miles away. But with the way we're going to design this, we'll be able to bring in a dump trailer all the way back here, meaning that we can bring bulk materials, we can bring all the mulch. And instead of doing all this in one fell swoop, what I'm going to do is to work little sections at a time. So here we have about 20 yards of soil that's already been amended with manure, and we need to come back and amend this further with biochar and vermiculite. And once that is all established, then we'll be able to do almost everything except for the seeds and the irrigation line. So we'll be able to lay our mulch rows, which I'll show you in a minute. I'll be able to have all the soil amended, and then when it comes time to actually do the work, it won't be anything more than what we can do just by carrying the entirety of the materials on our back. But what I'm going to do now is walk to the disappointment and the source of all these lessons. So let me walk down here. Just got to go slow. And here you will find the terrace that isn't, well, actually, I mean, I think it actually does look good, but there's good and bad. And we're going to start with the bad on this part. So ignore this stuff. You'll watch me plant that in a minute. But this is the problem. You see here on camera that there's just this giant gap where absolutely nothing is growing. I mean, I have a couple of cactus pads, like that one right there, and a couple others that have popped up, but for the most part, just a couple of transplanted lechugia are surviving, like that guy. That was the healthiest one. They transplanted it and pruned it, and it's doing well. But like this long gap where there's nothing growing is that is not good. As I go down here, you'll notice it starts getting better and better, especially on the right. So the left side is doing awful, and the one on the right is doing solid. And I made two mistakes here. Number one is that this area on the left was so large, and we didn't have these irrigation lines down when we planted. So what I think happened is that a lot of the seeds are over here instead of by the irrigation right over here. And the best symptom of that is when you have literally zero. So you can see, like on this one right here, okay, we must have got the seeds kind of sort of in the ballpark. But then there's several gaps where there's nothing growing, nothing growing, nothing growing, nothing growing. And that to me says that there are two potential problems. Problem number one, the water just isn't where the seeds are. And that's easily fixed. I'll fix that today. Problem number two is I got to wait for Brandon to turn on the irrigation system. And what I'm going to do is mix in water with clay and then amend the soil. Because the problem is that I've already put seeds in the ground and I really don't want to mess those up. Even though it's not growing right now, those seeds are somewhere in the ground and they will sprout when the right conditions occur. Obviously, those conditions are not this year because of the severe drought, but eventually they will pop up. So clay is the one thing that I have locally that we can scoop and find pretty easily without having to process. And then when we mix it with a very modest amount of water, it immediately improves the soil texture. It helps sand bind together and it'll grab onto just a little bit more water. And I suspect that was the problem with the germinations, because when I think about the way we amended the soil, we were really stingy along this stretch back here, this one on the right. But now I'm going to turn the camera. So as we get past this middle area, you'll notice that just things dramatically improve. So this is the healthiest bush. This is a rattle bush on this side. And then once we get over here, you'll just see green start going crazy. So here's the middle of the terrace right here, where this is the center line where the irrigation water is coming in. And then heading this way, everything's awesome. And this is Teresa, the Palo Verde. She is 4 months old and she's already at my belly button. She's already up to here. This is Mexican Palo Verde, and it's growing like crazy. There's a couple others that are growing in a nice clump, and it's really, really encouraging to see. And I'm gonna put the camera nice and low so that you guys can get a sense for walking through here. But as we come into this section of the terrace, clearly the soil amendments and the irrigation and all the mulch that we've added, these mulch rows that I'm walking on and I told you about up on the upper terrace, they make an enormous difference. I mean, look, we've got 4 Palo Verde growing right next to each other, next to the sorghum. There's more Palo Verde growing in its shade. So it's just doing incredibly well, especially given the growing conditions. I recently realized I was being charged for a credit monitoring service that I never use. Today's sponsor, Rocket Money, helped me find it and cancel it. Rocket Money is the financial app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. I'm using Rocket Money to set budgets. As Dust Ups takes a bigger and bigger role in my professional life, my wife and I have to keep a close eye on our cash flow. Rocket Money automatically monitors our spending by category. Whenever we exceed our limits, Rocket Money sends us a notification to put us back on budget. The app makes it so easy to study spending habits so that developing a realistic budget is quick and easy. Rocket Money helps its users save up to $740 a year when they use all of the premium features, and that's saved over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. To save more and spend less, join the over 5 million users using Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/dustups or click the link in the description to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with premium. That's rocketmoney.com/dustups to get started for free. Your support of my sponsors is what makes this whole project possible, so please go click and visit Rocket Money. I really appreciate your help. So what I'm excited about is that we can fix this. And then you might see this on camera, the red pile of peppers. Chris, when he came out here, a vendor at his job brought a bunch of hatch chilies that were wasted. So we thought, hey, we'll use them for mulch. Potential problem with the lack of germinations in that area may have been that the birds ate it. And instead of throwing seeds in the ground like I did last time, there's also the risk that my pre-treatment harmed them. I don't think that's the case because the same seeds were planted in all these different rows and some are doing great and others aren't. So I think I can rule out the pre-treatment. What I want to do is I want to plant them with clay balls. And the reason I want to plant them with clay is because it concentrates the soil amendment right next to where the seeds are going to be. So as soon as it rains and it gets nice and moist, those seeds will germinate, break up the clay, and then that clay will treat the soil immediately around the seeds, and holding the moisture, encouraging others to generate, creating competition, and ultimately that pushes them all to grow more and more vigorously. But first, let me show you preparing the seed balls, and then we'll come back and we'll actually get those in the ground. And then later tonight, I will amend this area with the clay water so that we can hopefully see some even more progress. 270 feet divided by 2, 135 locations. Basically want to make 135 seed balls. I'm actually using the exact same seed mix as I did back in May. I don't think I did anything wrong with species selection. A lot of it is just that the time is not the right time for those seeds to germinate. However, I do know that I missed a lot of the seed placement, that they're not right by the water source. And by going back and building these seed balls, I'm trying to be extremely thorough to make sure that, yes, I really did put the seeds in the right spot at the right depth and gave them the best opportunity to succeed. Screw bean mesquite that Brandon harvested. A lot of these have worm damage. I can hear some seeds in here. This is honey mesquite. Some of these were picked way too early, but I got a couple of seeds. Stinging serpent, be careful with. We'll do that last. This moringa will go in the big bag. Those are moldy, I think. Oh, no, they look all right. And finally, and the biggest mix is all right, so now time to make seed balls. Forgot one other thing, the stinging serpent seed. It gets its name for a reason, and it's because it's going to sting if I touch it. So I'm going to pour in, and this is a perennial, and the pollinators, I found it in the canyon. I've seen it growing in the dirt bathtubs. It colonizes aggressively, and it produces a lot of biomass. The pollinators love it. It grows very well here. It's just that it's not going to feel very nice when I touch it. So I'm going to take about half the seed that Brandon collected on the way from a trip into El Paso. And very carefully get it all back in the bag. And then I have gloves so that when I mix the seed balls, it's not getting on my hand. Brandon dug me up another 5 gallons of clay, so we'll just make it half clay and half seeds. Here's the final seed mix. This is the small to medium seeds. Well, they're really medium seeds, and I'm gonna just add by hand enough clay that it could plausibly bind this all together. I'm gonna go Google real fast what percentage should be clay, because I think it's half and half. So it's 4 parts clay to 1 part seed, and I almost forgot my Johnson Sioux. And since a tablespoon does 100 square feet, A tablespoon really ought to do all the seeds. And that was way more than a tablespoon. I would rather have too much than too little. But I'll keep this out of the sun. 4 parts clay to 1 part seed. Let's turn them into seed balls. I don't know how much water to add, so let's start with a little bit. But let's go work in the shade. It's really not that hot right now, but the sun's always just crazy intense out here. Not quite enough, but relatively close. Got some mystery water just sitting around here. Wow, I already added too much. Whoops. A lot of this dried material is chunky, so I think by the time I work it with my hand, it'll go from being muddy to more clay-like. The consistency is just a little wetter than I would like, but that's totally workable. And there really wasn't a magic solution. I just had to keep working it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to guess the size. I want to have 135 of these things. And I don't know how big to make them. I'd put a ton of seed in here, like way too much. I think it's fine if I have extra seed balls. It's kind of as small as I can get them. Right now, I'm still figuring out how to work with the clay. I'm trying to mix it into the biggest ball that's still workable, and the exterior seems to dry really quickly. And then what happens is I can make progressively smaller balls, and it just becomes a little more workable until they get to the large marbles that I'm trying to make. I think it's time for a chair. Now, if I would have realized how long this is going to take, I would have done it at home. Kind of wanted to use the native clay, but I think the benefit is so minor that it doesn't make any sense. I was worried about having 135, and that is no worry at all. Kind of speculating how this might work. I think if you just get one seed to germinate, it probably breaks the clay up into smaller parts that lets other seeds germinate, and then the clay ball breaks apart. And I'm sure the inside stays wet way longer than the outside, but I don't know. Luckily, this is so proven that it doesn't feel like an experiment. It's just me learning a skill or knowledge base or whatever you want to call this. I was thinking I'll just plant 135 seed balls and be done with it, but I don't really know what to expect, so I may do 2 or 3 seed balls per location, and then we'll just see what happens. Here is the final product. This took forever. I used way too much clay. I think this is 3 hours. Never again. When I moved on to the big seeds, I just said, you know, let's use the absolute bare minimum of clay because it's going straight in the soil. That was a painful lesson. So where is this thing? It's in here?
Yeah, bucket in here.
That's a pretty small one.
For all I know, they're all that size out here. It's the only one I've seen. I've heard there's a lot of different rock rattlesnakes out here.
Yeah, there's, I think, 7 different rattlesnake species.
Just want you to see the rattle here. There it is.
There it goes.
It wouldn't rattle at all messing with it. There you go. You wouldn't even hardly hear it if it wasn't laying on the bucket. I was just going out to the truck, and it was right here, coiled up. Caught my eye immediately. I don't walk around in the dark. Probably came for the kangaroo rats, and then it got cold, and he was like, oh no, I can't move.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Well, what do you think about getting him out of our home?
Let's get him out of here.
Yeah.
I don't want to share.
That's so interesting the way he's cocked to the side like that.
He's got a bead on you.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Looks quite a bit bigger stretched out, doesn't it?
Yeah. He's still a relatively small snake, but we clearly left him in the right spot. He went right for that mesquite.
It's so pretty. He's much feistier than last night in the cold wind.
Funny how that works.
I'm almost done. These pictures are way better than in the bucket. It's getting a lot more detail. That's your one chance, snake.
I'm just in time for the sunset. Favorite time of day. All right. Looks like these dried really well overnight, so these are totally ready to use. This process will go a lot smoother. These are the tiny little seeds. And they'll get lost in the clay. They just need to be spread on the surface. I'll come back for the big ones. I'm hoping we can make do with a leftover shopping bag for the lightweight, or for the bigger ones, just because it shouldn't weigh too much. Okay, these are crumbling. These are really falling apart. I messed up. There's one last thing that I want to do because I got stuck working on stuff inside this morning. So since the sun's a little higher in the sky than I would like, I'm going to invest in my comfort. Now I'm ready. I was walking by some of the agave that Chris brought out and decided to give it a second look just to see, are there any roots that look like I overlooked? And I spotted 2 that look like they're gonna be okay. It takes just a minute to transplant them, so we're gonna do what we can to give them the best shot. And actually having that vermiculite here, I'll need to come back and get that. But so this one has a little bit of, it has 1 root left. This one has just a couple of roots left. That actually looks pretty good. I don't know how I missed that one. We definitely want this guy. It's nice and big. And with agave, assuming you keep the roots intact, the bigger, the better. Well, not just the better because of the biomass, but also it's much more likely to survive because it's got resources stored as close to this tree as I can get. I'll get one over here. There we go. That'll give us a pretty good variety of agave. Let's just double check this one here. Well, not good, but there's a chance. Hard no. Hard no. Yeah, there's nothing left. No. And, boy, that is the tiniest little root. Unlikely, but we'll try. Here. And get the last agave over there. Yeah, that's the one. All right. And let's dig all the holes before. That way I could just go around putting the vermiculite in and be done. I forgot to mention that this last line right here hasn't had a single seed planted yet. And what I'm gonna do is start with the big seed balls I made, and then I will come back and plant the little seeds. That sounds like my other camera died. I gotta get this out of the sun if I'm gonna reuse it again. All right, and then this next batch ought to go much faster. And also I ran out of batteries, so I'm not sure where that stopped. But I think this next batch will go much faster because they don't need to be buried. They're covered in clay. And these seeds are quite a bit smaller. So they will germinate when they're supposed to. Like 3 or 4. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey. What do you got going on?
Planting seed balls.
Sweet.
Yeah. Pretty good. I got that whole row is now planted. And then now I'm just taking these and...
Are they down by the irrigation?
Yeah. Just trying to fill in the holes. Or the patchy parts. I'm also so excited about having transplanted trees and the goji berries and of course like 3 different types of agave.
Is that the goji right there?
Yeah, with the thicker green leaves or the oval leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as it gets a good drink or two, like all it needs to really do is make it through this fall and the winter, and it should be good to go. I'm gonna try to get these seed balls done so I can get out of the sun, because it's warm, but it's not the dead of summer, but it's still uncomfortable.
It's the sunlight.
So everything's gotten at least 1 treatment. Oh no, this center one hasn't. Kind of the theory here is that where the clay balls bounce and land is pretty close to where the water seems to be concentrating. So instead of aiming so hard, I did all this work making the clay balls. I think this might be better to let them tell me where they need to roll, and then hopefully these lead to germinations. I'll give you a pretty honest assessment of how it's going so far. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Now I just got to come back tonight, put clay in a watering can, and just walk up and down this place and try to get the soil just a little bit better. You have got to be kidding me.
Where's it at?
It's in the corner of the building.
It's a rock rattlesnake.
Is it?
Yeah, that's not the same. Well, actually, you know, it definitely has a different shaped head. He may be another red diamond.
Woo! You signed up for more excitement than I'm willing to do. 2 rattlesnakes in 2 days. Obviously, it's a safety issue. I'm going up to the dozer anyway, so I can take him, get him out of our hair. It's another sunset and another rattlesnake release. I hope that we're not doing this again every day, because this is getting old. Brandon mentioned that maybe these were a mating pair, so we're gonna release this snake in the exact same spot as the last one. Have a good day. Hope I don't see you again. A lot of the credit for what's happening on the Dust Ups Ranch is you. And the people that you see on the screen have financially contributed to the project. They have bought at least 1 linear foot, which is the cost that it took me to establish 1 linear foot on the terrace that you see up there. That's between labor, horse manure, biochar, seeds, all the things. If you'd like to chip in, you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen, or you can click the link in the description. If you're not able to contribute but you'd still like to help, one thing that you can easily do is to drive the viewership up. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, because more views is what really lets me continue to focus so much on the project. And what I've done with these funds is Brandon is now a full-time employee, Daniel's a part-time employee, and as this channel continues to build more and more momentum, that's how I'm going to scale this project, is by taking these funds to purchase labor and equipment so that we can continue growing this. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.